What's up, everybody? We're going to start this one. Before we start this one off, we're going to do a little honoring of Roddy Piper. So, my man, big homie, Big Stan.
I just want to say this going into the segment. Just when you thought you had all the answers, we changed the questions.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead, Wildcard.
So, we are back by popular demand. And that's your pleasure for us to be here, baby.
Yeah.
See, the reason why we're so late is because we got lost in the conversation backstage. Big man, Big Stan was telling us all these stories about how he was throwing fools over the top rope, left, right, center, straight, behind. It didn't matter. Them fools were hitting the mat on the outside of the ring. But you know who can tell the story so much better than I can is not only the man, the myth, the legend himself. Big Stan, go ahead and tell them what you were telling us backstage, baby.
Basically, what it came down to, Mr. Wildcard, is the fact that a lot of what Big Stan does is greatly inspired by none other than the man that we're going to be discussing tonight. The one and the only, the legendary, late, great, hot rod, Roddy Piper. What you got for him, Pack Daddy?
We're going to throw a little something to him, man. We go. This is to you, Roddy. So, welcome to the Big Stan and P.A.K show with the Wild Card. And the show is called With the Wild Card, not because he's right inside, because he's riding with us. If you on 3 Live stream, you're a main eventer. Okay? I got my guy over here who'll cut promo on you. I got my guy down here who'll give you the 1, 2, 3. When he hits you, you know it's coming, baby. You down on the mat. Okay? What you got?
So it's like this. Tonight is going to be an extra special night of the Big Stan and P.A.K show, simply because we are covering one of the biggest legends and icons of all of professional wrestling. All right. So with that said, Pack Daddy, what you got on it?
You know what? We're going to cover quite a bit here. But I'm also going to say thanks to some people who showed up in the chat. We got Pop the Trunk Toys, Danny Dolphin, M3 Reviews. M3 Reviews is listening, boy. Get on the tubes and watch, man. It ain't the same. Wake up, old man.
M3, hey, the one and only.
Yeah, he gonna bust my balls over that. I love you, M3. We got McDJ, ACDC, Curtis Schultz, Inutabi, Larkins Lair. What's going on, fellas? I think that covers everybody, but like I said, ain't nobody here. Every one of us here is a main eventer, and we got something that we can bring. And with that being said, I think I'm going to roll the fucking tape.
Hit it.
Yeah. Okay, so I know the intro's a little rough tonight, but I watched the show a couple different times, and I watched it right before the show tonight, and I thought it had a lot of heart. Maybe I shouldn't have watched it right before because I had a bunch of stuff I wanted to do, but when I watched it, man, if you watch this show, man, if you ain't got some feelings toward this man and his family and everything they went through, then I don't know what to tell you, because the difference, I think, between, before we get into it, this one and the Stone Cold Steve Austin one was just his family. His family just seemed, like they really knew him well. There's a lot of love going on there, and I want to make sure tonight that we represent honor his memory well, his family, and his legacy.
Right on.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think the interview with the kids and the children, the wives, I think all those interviews, I really think it really set this apart from the Steve Austin one. Just mainly because they were able to dive into Piper's history as a kid, as a child, because he was very open about all of that stuff. Even on the WWE documentary they did years ago on Piper, he was even open about it there. But, it's different here because they didn't really interview his kids for that, but they interviewed his wife and kids for this. So you got this different perspective, and they were even able to share their own personal stories about Piper. And I thought that really changed it up, really gave it a different feeling and than what the Steve Austin one had.
Right. Go ahead, Stan. But go ahead, big homie.
Yeah, just to piggyback off the wild card, yeah, it was a more I'm not gonna say it was more in depth, being that his family was involved in this version of the story, like you say, it came from another angle, and it just put more emphasis on how genuine and authentic Roddy Piper's life and career actually was, and stuff like that. I like to sit my family down and let them check it out in order for them to get a better understanding of what professional wrestlers, especially guys that we grew up on, had to go through, and the things that they had to deal with and work through in order to entertain us, just so they can get a really good perspective of just how hard it actually is, And Roddy Piper definitely he went through everything the hard way,
Yeah, that's okay. We'll start talking about like the beginning. They kind of set the tone about how he grew up, and I know there's a lot of people. There's a lot of people I can relate to being raised by that sort of standard. I think they called it like a harder Victorian type. I think that may be a Canada reference. I'm not sure about that. But that's what made him so good, all the hard stuff he went through. But yeah, it sounds like he was into it a lot with his dad, and he kind of left and was homeless for a while.
Yeah.
And you start thinking about that stuff, man. And if somebody that goes through that, somebody that goes through those hard times and has that much drive, that's what makes greatness. Somebody that had to pull from the depths of somewhere, not somebody that had something given to him.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That's why he was so good. That's why a lot of the guys that paved the way, man, they didn't have anything given to them, man. If you think of how hard he had it, I mean, ain't none of us want to do none of that.
Yeah, it was a real deal rags to riches story. You know what I'm saying? Like that was a perfect example of a rags to riches story.
Yeah, definitely. And you gotta think too, man, if this was any other era in wrestling, post 80s, I don't think he would have made it, because he was able to take that attitude and turn it into something that was golden, essentially.
Well, I don't think anybody, like they said on there, nobody was really doing it like that. I never want to speculate. Okay, it kind of talks about how his upbringing was, and I don't know if that drove the character. But I had so much respect for him on the documentary when his wife would say he would make sure that he would come home, spend some time somewhere else. I think it was the hotel. Like, I apologize if I get something wrong. And he would make sure that he flipped his, got his mentality right. Because when you're doing that shit like we do, we're here to have fun. We're here to get fucking rowdy. We'll get rowdy tonight. And when you saw his children and his wife talking to him, you could just tell that there's a lot of love there and a lot of grounding, in my opinion.
Yeah, if his family didn't have his back and supported him in the magnitude that they did, things would only have been worse for him, as far as trying to hold it all together, And I know, like, again, as we've been specifying with his family being such a big part of his success and, well-being altogether, again, them being patient with him, that played a big part in him being able to go out when he needed to and be Hot Rod, and be able to come back home and be who he needed to be for his family, because he was mentally stable enough to do what he needed to do to recharge for the situation.
Right. I also want to say, if I missed something in chat, man, I do apologize. But like I said, this one's a little different. And like, okay, so we talked about the beginning. I kind of want to I want to touch on it all, but let's chop it up a little bit. Wild card, is there a favorite part that you'd like to get into talking about that they covered with him?
That they covered?
Yeah, we're talking about just what they covered. Yeah.
There's a lot, but my favorite Piper era was him and Brett, the Intercontinental era, the early 90s era. And I think, honestly, they covered it really well. I think they said what they needed to say, and they got in, they got out. But I do wish they would have, of that era, I wish they would have covered his interviews and all that stuff in greater detail, because that was a different era Piper. Yeah, he was still angry and he was still loud and rowdy and brash, but it was coming from a different place almost. Instead of always talking his opponent down, he kind of learned how to talk his opponent up while talking himself up as well. And so that was, I felt like that was a good era in his interview storytelling capabilities. I thought that was a good evolution, and I really wish they would have covered that more in depth as well.
Yeah.
Because they did that with Bret Hart, and they kind of touched on that a little bit with Bret when he was talking about, knee high to a grasshopper and stuff like that. But I think they did it really well. I think they did it justice. And I think them telling the story through Bret Hart's eyes and through Bret's perspective, I think it was the right decision. 100% the right decision to do it that way. Instead of just going over what happened, they let Bret Hart tell it.
Yeah, there's so many there's so many different things, eras, and specific things that happen are so iconic. Mm-hmm. And we've been talking, and we may have something coming later on, maybe later on after these shows. But basically, what we're going to touch on is just the things going on in the documentaries, what we thought, chopping that up. There's a whole bunch more that goes on that he did. So, I mean, there's content forever, because when you're talking about wrestling, you're talking about nothing but steel guts and heart. You know what I'm saying? That, I ain't gonna hear the fucking stigma of people saying it's fake. Okay, predetermined outcomes. All right, but you see what these guys are taking, these bumps. We got the man right here that can tell us all about it.
Jim Ross famously once said, "How do you learn to fall off a ladder? You don't."
You know what's I could be
Not
wrong.
at all.
I could be wrong, but I think some of them guys are so good. They figure out ways to, now it hurt. I'm not saying it don't hurt like a motherfucker. Okay.
Mhm.
I think there's some of those guys, they took so many of those hits, they figured a little something out. You know what I'm saying? Because for the likes of people being thrown off a Hell in a Cell and being able just to survive as a, just your body, man, there's got to be ways that the greats figure it out. Go ahead.
I remember we had a saying that was told to us as we were training in wrestling school. Spend your whole life learning how to stand up and walk and run and do everything on your feet. But professional wrestling, you actually have to learn how to fall. And to put the emphasis on what you said, Pack. Hell yeah, that don't stop it from hurting because you're still falling. And what are you falling on? I mean, this here is just to educate the people in a way to give you the whole physics and the dead on knowledge of common sense knowledge of you still have to take the fall. It's just a way to take it in order for you to be able to get back up.
Yeah.
There is a difference there. If you learn how to fall, yeah, it's gonna hurt like hell, but at least you'll be able to get back up.
Yeah. So early part of the show, they talk about, and it's just golden. It's golden when Turner, that when he went with Turner and they teamed up Ric Flair with Piper.
Mm-hmm.
Gold. I mean, I'm going to take some time and we're going to talk about that because, I mean, woo! I mean, that shit is golden, man.
Yeah, man.
Like,
Yeah, definitely.
I imagine that people running the show, organizing it, the backstage people, the people, all the shit. You imagine how much of a hard time they had trying to handle those two.
I wouldn't even try. I would sit back and I would laugh my ass off. I would get ready for that night. I would just be like, this is going to be great.
Right.
I think Ric Flair said that they should have never put them two together, or they had no idea what was going to happen. I don't remember exactly his terms or what he said, but I mean, when you talk about Ric Flair, you're talking about wrestling personified. I mean, those two, man, I wish that was just there was more of that old, because I mean, right after that, they went into the him fighting against Greg Valentine, I do believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was a really huge, but you got to think too, man, for that part, there really wasn't a whole lot. There's a lot to go over there, but they weren't together that long.
That's what I mean. I wish they would have kept that instead. I said that I wish they would touch upon more. I'm wrong. I wish that they would have kept that together, but I think there's a reason why it must not have. But man, those two, I mean, that sound like a rowdy ass bunch right there.
I want to hear the more backstage stories from Flair for that.
Oh man.
I think for the most part, the reason why they didn't get to carry on with Piper and Flair in any way or another in the Georgia or Mid-Atlantic territories was because during that time, I want to say he was getting ready to get the call up to New York.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you know what I'm saying, if you sit there and synchronize the timelines and everything, that's pretty much what was going on there. You can just about put two and two together and say that the Georgia territories had already got the heads up that Piper was only going to be there for so long, so there was only so much that you were going to be able to do with it. But let's do the best that we can with the time that we have.
Yeah.
And then look at the history that comes out of it still. Look at the payoff that the fans get still. Although it was a limited time, it still happened.
Yeah, what's that saying? Don't think about what you didn't have, enjoy what you did have, right?
Right.
Yeah, that's exactly the way I should look at it. Exactly. Listen to what these men have to say. God dang it. They I'm gonna get for a second, but they did the Greg Valentine, and those two beef for a while, man. I mean,
Yeah.
I'll be right back, but those two wailed on each other.
That's something that they didn't touch on this, that rivalry with Greg the Hammer Valentine cost Roddy Piper his ear is hearing in his right ear. I'm trying to say both words at the same time.
Right.
But they didn't even mention that, man. Go ahead, Sam.
Yeah, that was actually a legendary feud right there, in which I'm glad they touched on the actual timeline of it. The actual extent, which was a year. They run the program together for a whole year, so of course there's more than enough time to solidify a feud. In professional wrestling, especially, and just look at where things like that started, and then it led on to both of them being in the World Wrestling Federation together.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the beauty of a lot of that time period.
Yeah, there's a lot of that time period where you can look, just look at WWE's roster then. Piper, Greg Valentine, Hogan, Steamboat, right? You can look at all these guys, and then you can go years before they were in WWE and watch even more stuff, watch more interviews, matches from AWA, from early WCW, Georgia Wrestling, from Houston Wrestling, from Canada, from all these other places and stuff. You could definitely take a look. There's a lot there. The Mid-Atlantic area and all that stuff. But what's funny about the Greg Hammer thing is that there's, man, the cake with the dog collar. There's only certain things, man, that would work then. Baking a cake and putting a dog collar in it, and then Greg Valentine being mad because his birthday cake was ruined or whatever,
Yeah.
it's like that's only something that could work then. I don't see that working now. You getting angry over a birthday cake just wouldn't work, but
right.
But
it was good stuff back then.
Oh yeah, and it really highlighted Piper's mind. Just how can I get close to him without getting close to him? Oh, it's his birthday. I'll make him a cake.
And that's also to Greg Valentine's credit, to be able to take anything as simple as a birthday cake and use that as a part of your promo. What I'm saying? Take that and elevate it in the fashion that you need to in order to get people invested in the fight. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So he did a good job of putting the birthday cake on it, if I can get away with saying that.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, what's up, Winston? Winston's joining us.
What's going on?
Winston, what's happening?
Before we go into it, before we continue on, let's do a little segment of the show. What's everybody in chat's favorite moment from the biography? Or for the chat, we'll go Piper memory or just something that sticks out to them. I think Curtis Schultz got the one where he was on Piper's Pit, where he in the biography, Vince says there was one coconut that was rigged or worked special, and Piper picked the wrong one and just clobbered his ass, man.
Yeah, I don't think he picked the wrong one on accident, though. I think he picked the wrong one on purpose.
Depending on if he likes snooker or not.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
That does happen. I mean, you know, if you don't like somebody and you're in a position to let them know if you like them or not, and that person gonna know once you go side to head, once you actually working with them. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Let's try to put what we're getting there. We're getting there, M3. When he did the movie, we're definitely getting there, brother. I'm with you on that one, man. John Nada, boy.
Marcos, what's happening?
What's up? What up? Oh man. But okay, let's have real talk. Who wants to get hit? Who wants to fucking get hit in the head with a coconut?
Nobody.
Dude, that shit has to hurt. Like, you're not a wrestler if you're not tough. Okay, hard head, body of steel, even the hardest headed son bitch, that rung the bell good. I don't think he was faking it neither. You could see he was laid out good.
Yeah. You could see he was kind of stumbling to find his footing, and then the whole all that back canvas and the stage and stuff just fell down.
I think that they designed it as a work, and Piper put it up as a straight up shoot, bro.
Yep. Right. They should have seen it coming. Right.
Man. Then maybe they did. Maybe he did.
Maybe.
A man as great as him and his vision, he was probably. If you do that as long as he does, and you're as smart as he does, you probably had an inclination. It would not surprise me if this man did this.
Should have.
Man, but go ahead.
No, I go for it. I was going to touch on something about Snuka, but
no, go ahead.
No, but I was going to say though, there's stories about how Snuka's mind was starting to. I don't want to say break down early in his career, but he apparently wasn't even mad that Piper hit him with the coconut. Like he just, it's part of the show and all this other stuff. So, but yeah, no, go ahead. You go ahead. That's too dark. It's a little dark to go.
Yeah. Forgot what I was gonna say, man. Piper's Pit, though, man, that whole thing where it's just like a talk show where anything can happen right there, man. They were just striking gold. Everything was fucking gold with him and the guys around him in that era. But this is the second biography they've done, and both the guys, they specifically say in there, both of them were loners. So that's something that I'm kind of watching as we go. To see, because they said Stone Cold was the same way. And sometimes when you get that vision, man, it's
tunnel vision.
Yep. Yeah, that's why it was cool to see how him and Brett actually had a nice relationship.
Yeah, definitely.
And just because you're a loner doesn't necessarily mean you don't have friends or you don't have people close to you. It's just like as far as having too many people. You know what I mean? You're not going to have too many people or too many distractions to pull you away from your primary order of business. Because I'm the same way. Actually, I can be considered alone. But it's not that I don't have people close to me or around me, you know what I'm saying, as a support system. But, I'm not going to say Piper didn't have friends. I mean, because if he didn't, nobody would have spoken on his behalf, other than his family when it came down to it.
But what up, Bruce Banner? Now, next segment, I mean, is the main attraction, man. And we could be on this top for a while on the WrestleMania I. I mean, where it all starts off. When you talking about this guy, go ahead.
That's my favorite. Yeah, that would be my favorite moment in time for his career. It was that era right there. That is what turned me on to Roddy Piper, and we'll touch back on that after you you go ahead and say what you about to say.
Oh, you good. You good. But WrestleMania I, the vision they had. Let's talk about that. Hogan, Mr. T, Piper, Cowboy Bob Orton. Who was the other guy in the corner?
Mr. Wonderful, Paul Orndorff.
Yes, my bad. They Hogan said they didn't get along at the beginning. So sometimes I wonder when guys don't get along, like some of them hits got a little. They could put a little sauce on them things from time to time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We're gonna put a little extra fucking mustard on this one, boy.
Yeah.
So,
But
yeah. I think the thing with Hogan, Hogan, you have to take with a grain of salt everything he says, you know, which is kind of sad because, you know, when Hogan's telling this era of Piper, you know, interaction with Piper and everything, Hogan is a known, I don't want to call him a liar, right? But he's a history revisionist. I'll put it that way. So,
he can be a bullshitter.
Yeah, exactly, man. Grade A. So watching that through Hogan's perspective, because if you go back and you watch earlier interviews, and read his book and stuff like that, he's said different things about Piper and stuff in this era than he has here. But yeah, so like I said, you always got to take Hogan with a grain of salt when it comes to this stuff and whatnot. And Hogan was always out for number one, you know. So a lot of the stuff that he said here about Piper, I feel like, you know, because he was saying, you know, you could have gone out there and made $1 million, you could have become a millionaire overnight, you know. It's like, yeah, it's not quite how it worked then. Because Hogan was so protective over, you know, where he was on the card and his spot in the company and everything. I don't think that wouldn't have gone down any different. And I, for one, 100% agree with what Piper did, because Piper at that moment, he didn't lay down for Mr. T, and he still made Mr. T look strong so he could go back to Hollywood and do everything for his kids and the A-Team, and the A-Team wouldn't lose ratings and serious tone and stuff. And Piper got to keep his heat. Piper still, from WrestleMania I, when he walked out, was the most hated person in that arena and around the world, and he was still able to hold on to that.
Yeah, that's the big part where the swing takes place after this. But you know what? Like, a lot of people have this saying to where if I could do it again, I'd do it differently. I don't ever say that, because that's speaking in perspective of now. Right. If I did it then, I'd do it again. I'd do it all over again. Now, let's say the guy did it differently. Maybe he'd never been the same again. That was who he was. That's this persona. That's his personality. When you start rewiring somebody and changing them, they may not be the same. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, even though Hogan, he's in the business, he knows shit. Okay, it's not my job to say that he doesn't, or, you know, but like, I'm glad he just stuck to what he was doing, you know. But bringing in Mr. T, you know, I remember that as a kid. And it's like, because Mr. T, like, we all watch a lot of TV in the 80s, and we know what that was like with all those shows. And then you had, I'm trying to think, Rocky 3. Was Rocky 3 Mr. T?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to figure out if Rocky 3 was out then. I think he was. I'm pretty sure Rocky 3 was out before then.
It wasn't. It was right there together.
Yeah, because Rocky 3, Hogan left WWE the first time to go film Rocky 3, and then came back like whatever it was, like a year or so later, when Vince Jr. when the current Vince McMahon bought the company from Vince Sr.
Curtis Schultz. What's happening is A&E is doing a show for 8 weeks straight. This was their second show. It's on every Sunday, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. First show was Stone Cold. This one they just did Sunday was Roddy Piper. Next show this Sunday will be Macho Man. Okay, so it's going to be 8 wrestlers for 8 weeks, and we don't take you through it all. So,
and if you got the A&E app on your phone or tablet or whatever, it's also free to watch on the app, and you can stream it to your TV or whatever.
Yeah.
What up, Curtis Schultz? My man.
And yeah, it was a little rocky in the beginning. I apologize. It'll get better next time, man. The WrestleMania I, I mean, let's say, okay, does wrestling continue the way it did if they don't create WrestleMania?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because you got to think at that time what WCW was doing. You know, you had Clash of Champions. You had things like Starrcade. You know, it was still territorial at that point in time. You know, so yeah, I think truthfully it wouldn't have been WWE on the top of the mountain right now. I think it would probably be WCW, just roles reversed, to be honest.
I think that as far as wrestling being wrestling, it would have just remained wrestling, and not a spectacle.
Yeah.
You know, it would have still just been pretty much a sport, so to speak. You know, all of the larger than life entertainment value of it still wouldn't have been a thing. You know, although professional wrestlers were revered as, you know, larger than life, but it wasn't emphasized. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't glorified or nothing like that. You know, it was special, but in all honesty, the WWF at the time really made it special because, you know, going back to when I was a kid, I had it explained to me, like, you know, when Andre the Giant would come to my town, or the Junkyard Dog, or the Von Erichs, so you know what I'm saying? So it was like, you know, that was something, you know, to let you know how much bigger they had become once they made it to the World Wrestling Federation. Because think about all these names that are being named, you know, all of them went there. You know, all except for the Von Erichs until Kerry went later on, you know, in the early 90s. But what I'm saying is all of these guys were the who's who of wrestling, you know. And Vince, you know, as the visionary that he was at that time, he saw something that he could do with wrestling in order to take it to greater heights, in which that he did.
Okay, so let me shoot you this, big Stan, homie, big homie. All right,
come on with it, baby.
Okay, what's that thing you're packing alongside with you tonight?
Oh man,
what is that?
This? Well, brother.
Oh, let me put you on blast, sons.
Brother, if you're referring to this, you know, I don't necessarily refer to it as a thing, brother. This is the thing. If you're gonna put the word thing on this, brother, this is the thing. This right here, brother, is the only thing.
That's the drip.
To the professional wrestling machine, when it comes down to professional wrestling, when it comes down to the Southwest region and Southwest Pro Wrestling, this right here, brother, is the one championship that everybody's talking about right now. You know why? But not because there's another championship title that's been added to my collection. This right here, daddy, is the newly forged Texarkana Wrestling Championship, held by none other than the professional wrestling machine, the Super Destroyer, and Texarkana's own Big Stan Harris. That's right. This is the newly forged Texarkana Wrestling Championship, sanctioned by none other than the greatest wrestling promotion in all the Southwest region, Southwest Pro Wrestling.
God damn. I mean, what the fuck can you do to follow that shit up, man? Let me just fucking take that in for a minute. God damn.
I told you last week, Big Stan, gold's your color, baby.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I'll never stop appreciating that, brother, and I'll never stop representing to the fullest. You can believe that, brother. When it comes down to me and professional wrestling, I am representing each and every individual that I come in contact with that says, Big Stan, I got your back. You can best believe that with every part of my being, brother, every molecular, every molecule, every atom, every muscle, every drop of blood, every ounce of sweat, everything goes into me continuing to go strong for everybody out there that has got my back, brother. Everybody that's going along with me on this journey, you can best believe that this championship right here is not only my championship, brother. This championship belongs to each and every one of you. And don't you forget it.
And what a good man once said, yeah. You know what that man is? This man, that man, right down there, boy. But that leads into what I want to say. If WrestleMania 1 doesn't happen, do you see yourself on the same path? Maybe it matters, maybe it doesn't to you. Do you still see yourself wrestling the champ, or do you not see that happening?
You know, that is a damn good question, Pac. I mean, and to be honest, like when I first got turned on to wrestling, you know, WWF still hadn't quite hit that point. You know what I'm saying? They still weren't just number one just yet. They were on their way. They were well on their way. They, as a matter of fact, they were right there on the brink of being number one. But you still had world class, which was I'm gonna say the closest, if not the closest. They were next to the closest promotion to where I lived growing up as a kid. And you had the Von Erichs, the Freebirds, Iceman King Parsons, Sweet Brown Sugar Skip Young, Kamala, Abdullah the Butcher, Bruiser Brody. You had all these big names. You know, I could go on and on just from that promotion. You know, Gino Hernandez, Chris Adams, you name it, the Great Kabuki. You know, this I don't even want to get started on it because I won't finish no time soon. But to me, that was like a Texas version of the WWF. Then you go over to Mid-South with the Hacksaw Jim Duggins and the Ted DiBiase's, Terry Taylor, let's see, the Lord Humongous, the Bruise Brothers. You know, there's so many characters, you know, and personas that I can remember that were so good, so intriguing, and let alone Jim Crockett Promotions, you know, NWA, the Nature Boy Ric Flair, the American Dream Dusty Rhodes, the Koloffs, Barry Windham, Lex Luger, the Man Called Sting, the Steiners. You know, it's just and all of these are pretty much around in the same areas, you know, but it's just, you know, any of that, you know, and can't leave out the AWA because in the 80s, AWA, they were catching some traction, you know, as far as all of the, you know, larger than life type of, you know, looks that they were trying to put out. You know, when you talk about the Road Warriors and Kurt Hennig, the Ganyas, Larry Zbyszko, you know what I'm saying? Carlos Colon. It's just, you know, it goes on and on. And what I'm saying all that to say is wrestling was still good. But what Vince McMahon had done, what he had came up with was a way to make wrestling mainstream.
Right.
When he
like I said, we're always going to speak our mind here, and we're always going to say it like we want to say it. So I'm not particularly looking for a certain answer. I just wondered, in your opinion, you know?
Yeah. I would say that there would be a good chance, because I was still, and what I was saying all along was I was still highly inspired by professional wrestling. Like, that was the greatest thing I'd ever seen, regardless of WrestleMania. So I would say, yeah, it would be a good chance that I would still, you know, pursue being a professional wrestler.
Well, good.
But the WWF made the chances more, you know, it was more of a chance for me being a wrestler because of WWF. It increased the chances of it happening.
Yeah. Well, with that being said, we roll into the next part of the documentary where he leaves and he goes and does that movie, They Live, which I love that fucking movie, dude. That movie is a trip. If you watch it still to this day, because I just watched it again like 4 or 5 months ago, and you start thinking about corporate America and the things that are being pushed on us, man. I mean, it's one of those movies that was calling it. It was calling it like it was, and it still is. You know. I remember seeing that movie for the first time and thinking, man, I don't feel like that's John Nada. I feel like that's Roddy. You know, I didn't know his backstory, but like when they first, you know, he's a drifter, you know, that's exactly that's what he was when he was young, man. But that movie, man, I like that movie a lot. You know how I don't know if they still do it. I think they used to do like best fight scene of the year when they do like awards. That gets my favorite fight scene of all fucking time.
It's good. Yeah. It was that good.
Yeah, it was. I was like, oh man, they still fighting. Well, fuck. Right. Well, keep fighting, and man, I'm like, oh, I almost didn't want to end. It was good.
Yeah, and then you get to relive it all in Saints Row 4. So.
And what?
In Saints Row 4, the video game.
Oh, I don't know anything about that.
So basically, it's a video game. It's like alien invaders and all this stuff. But Keith David ends up joining your team, and you got to go rescue Hot Rod, and you end up fighting him in the alleyway all over again.
Right. Oh man, it was good though, man. Because I'm sitting back watching, I'm thinking, how many of these are real? How many of these actually happened? You know, I know he referenced one where he actually did hit Piper, but it makes you wonder, as good as it was, how many more were there?
No, knowing Piper, I'm pretty sure there was a few. You know, I'm sure there was some kind of conversation of, hey man, if you hit me, don't stop, just keep going. We'll just roll with it, whatever. You know,
right?
Just knowing Piper, I'm sure that's what it was, man. There was a few real ones in there. There had to have been.
Oh man, such a good fight, but there wasn't a lot of that happening back then, man. So another thing that when you think of the greats, man, sometimes he gets passed over, you know. And when you stop and think about, I mean, we'll go to the next wrestler. All these guys are great for a reason, okay? And it's almost like they each did something different. How the fuck do you get this many great wrestlers and they all could bring something new? That's heart and that's fucking strength, you know. I know they were talking about later on how he had a hip replacement. And like we were talking about earlier, how real this shit is, okay? How real some of the hits are. Now we see some of them and you can tell, you know, they're laying off or whatever, but there's quite a lot of them that are real. And the dude's got a hip replacement and he's taking shots to it and he's still wrestling. Like anybody that's had a hip injury knows how real that shit is. Like I worked on cars for a long fucking time, and I messed my hip up a lot. Last time I did it, I couldn't walk. So this guy's out there with a replacement, and he's still getting wailed on. Which I didn't touch on this last week. When Austin took the pile driver for real, and it bruised his spine, and he eventually got up and walked. That's the fucking mind. That's the strength of the mind, allowing you to perform actions that your body ain't supposed to fucking achieve.
Right.
And that's the same thing you get with Roddy. You know, like his son said the thing that he had to lace his boots up a lot. But when it's time to go, it's just like the mind. That's all from right here.
Yep. Mind over matter.
Mind over matter is real. You can tell yourself things and you can believe it. You can strive and achieve for what you want. And if you're strong up here, you'll get there. And you won't just get there. You're going to fucking get there maybe better than anybody else did it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah. You know, just bouncing back to what you were saying about the fight scene, about them, you know, just keep going no matter what. You know what I'm saying? That's a part of it. I mean, but I know that comes from Hot Rod's training, you know, from wrestling. I mean, it's like you don't stop, you know, and just pause or take take 5 or none of that when you're in the middle of a match, when you're performing, you know, because you got all these people that's still watching. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. All these people that have paid their hard-earned money, they're here to see you, and you got a job to do, and that job is to keep going, to show them just how strong you are. You know what I'm saying? It's all about the will and the inspiration that you're giving off to the spectators. So it's like you don't feel that shit when it's going on. You know what I'm saying? You might feel it later, but your adrenaline and everything is up so high, and your mind is so focused on the task at hand. Last thing you're thinking about is how hurt you are. You know? And Piper was, of course, so deeply programmed at the time to where no, it's nothing to him, you know.
Yeah, man. So you gotta feel for those guys. You know, all those years of knocks, putting everything they got out on the line, which brings us to the next segment where he had the HBO interview. You know, can people relate? Like Vince is like, what is he doing? Okay, Vince, isn't my place to question you. But when you're a man or you're whoever, a woman, whoever, and you've done something your whole life, and you've put that kind of effort into it, that focus. Yeah. I mean, you've left nothing behind. Everything has been in your wake, and you've taken care of it, and you've nailed it. When that's taken from you, what do you do? Like she said, he became depressed sometimes. The people that are great, that want to do something, and they're following that path, and they got that tunnel vision, you get a lot of that sometimes. You get that downside because you can get such an upper achieving level of accomplishment that when you're not achieving that, you can come down there. And, you know, I'm not sure if that's what it was, but in my opinion, it's like the guys, because what do you do with yourself next? You know, I mean, even in the last biography we did, when Stone Cold stopped wrestling, he didn't know what to do with himself. He was making poor life decisions. He said, I wasn't going to make to live very long if I kept doing the shit I was doing.
Right.
They have to transition. And that's really rough, and it takes some time. So I could see why. You know, like you said, you can talk about what was going on with a lot of his friends and all that in the business. But it's rough for anybody that's done something their whole life and now that's not there. That's what adapting is. As you get older, having to reinvent yourself is the word I'm looking for, and that shit ain't fucking easy.
No.
Yeah.
Especially when you've done the same thing, when you've been in this same routine for so long. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like a guy that gets up, goes to the same exact job for 30 years, and then he's closing in on retirement. If that guy has really not done nothing but live pretty much the same way, gone to work, did whatever things in between that you do outside of work, you know what I'm saying? And you just keep going in this same pattern for so long without thinking about, well, what's next or what am I going to do? You know what I'm saying? I mean, some people do get caught up like that, you know, and then when the time comes where, okay, now you can't really go to do this job anymore, but you don't want to stop, you know, being productive. So, you know what I'm saying? That's the wall that you crash into, unfortunately.
Go ahead, wild card.
I was gonna say, I agree. Well, I was gonna say something different, but I do agree with what Big Stan was saying. But the WWE, you know, Vince McMahon during that interview, he said that, you know, he's talking smack about the company. So what do? We had to let him go because you know, you make the company look bad, and you can't do that. But you know, a lot of people forget, you know, Steve Austin. You know, he's on record for beating his wife, and that was the face of that company for 10 years. You know, they didn't let him go because of that stuff, right? They did. There's a lot of people in WWE's history that had very similar. I won't say similar interviews, but they had very, you know, they said a lot of similar things that stayed with the company. They you know, they punished them behind the scenes so that they never outright fired anybody, and they let Piper out of his contract because of that HBO interview, and I, you know, I think that just goes to show, you know, that Piper, how hard his life was even after he made a bunch of money. You know, he was still going through stuff mentally, and the only people that were there who did understand was his family, you know?
Right. Well, you know how it is too. You got a guy who's really good at this job, and he can do whatever the fuck he wants. Okay, and then you got another guy over here that's doing the same job. He ain't quite as good. He can't get away with everything. So, like we say, some of the top billers at the time get away. Roddy's a little bit older at that time. So, like I said, I don't really know. I wasn't there. But there's always that in life where you think something isn't called down the middle. But, you know, it usually comes down to that.
Right.
Cato, we don't give away those secrets here, sons. You know, we don't give them away. So
what up, Cato?
You gonna keep that on the drills?
I think he's talking about the hair. It's kind of Fabio-ish, but the thing is, Fabio didn't have the natural highlights. You know what I'm saying?
Dude, if you say Fabio on my fucking show one more time, you will turn heel and we will beef.
Break it down. Break it down a little bit more, wild card. I like where you were going with that. I want some more of that right here, right now.
Because you
break it down to him about that.
Because you see, if I say the name 3 times, then next time you look at yourself in the mirror, Fabio appears. That makes 3. Balls in your court, Pac-Man.
There ain't no Fabio on my show, bro. There ain't no Fabio on the Big Stan and Pack show with the wild card. Fuck what you heard. That ain't what's happening. So
right on.
It's the real deal. It's the fucking hype man wild card, and it's me who's gonna throw it all together. Gonna throw it all together, baby. Yeah.
Keep one thing in mind. There is no card like the wild card. Get what I'm saying?
That's right, baby. That's
Oh.
right.
And you know what that gets, don't you? That gets a little bit of that right there, sons. Yeah.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah. Ooh. All right, man. If y'all got something else to add to this, go ahead. But I think we're gonna go ahead and cut it off. I think go ahead.
I just want to go back and put a little more sauce on the part where we were highlighting our favorite moments
Yes,
in
go ahead.
Piper's career,
Yeah.
which goes back to the WrestleMania I, where I actually started to really pick up on him a little bit more. Was I remember him, vaguely from his time in Georgia Championship Wrestling. I was still very young, but by the time I got, a couple years older, and he had made it to the World Wrestling Federation, I think about the fact that could there have been anybody else in Piper's position that would have made the same impact, being across from Hogan and Mr. T.
No.
Who I don't see anybody else that could have came in and done the job that he did. And at that time, me being a little, like a small kid or whatever, of course, 5, 6 years old, maybe
Yeah.
7, but still at that time it was good guys and bad guys. That's all you seen, And where I'm saying that to say this, Piper was the first. He was the very first heel wrestler that I considered to be a cool heel wrestler. Like, this guy, even though he was a bad guy, you knew he was a bad guy. It was like, man, I like this dude. You know what I'm saying? Like, I like what he's doing. I like everything about him. You know what I'm saying? Regardless
Absolutely.
of him being the bad guy. He was the first one that just really got me looking the other way. You know what I'm saying? Like, I really kind of want to cheer for this dude just because the way he's putting it down, And I remember when I started getting those LJN wrestling figures, when my grandfather was starting to buy those for me, when it came down to, I think I got like 3 or 4 baby faces, the Hogan and Andre the Giant, a couple of more I can't remember exact, might have been, I can't remember, so I'm not gonna go there. I know it was Junkyard Dog, but my mom bought me him. But I remember my first heel being Roddy Piper. I had to have him first to rival the babyface figures that I had,
Absolutely.
Babyface.
And it was just, I had to be sure and put that out there, to let it be known that that was the type of, influence that he had on me as far as, the love that I had back for him. I really got him. You know what I'm saying? Even at that young age or whatever, I got him. I got what he was doing as being that good at his job, being that good at being bad,
Yeah, and I agree, because I'll say this. He's the only bad guy in wrestling history, the only heel in history that I can think of, truthfully, that really personified what that meant. Like you had heels that were, they're foreigners, so they come in, they gotta stop America, and then America has to stop them, like the Iron Sheik and all that stuff, right?
Right.
But Piper was the first and really the only one that whatever crowd he was playing to, you were gonna hate him. He could be in a sea full of Canadians in his hometown, and they would cheer him, and then as soon as he hit the ring, he would do or say something that would boo him just relentlessly. He's the only wrestler then, now, present, everything that I can honestly think of that really personifies that.
He was the only one taking coconuts upside your head. You know what I'm saying? Think about it now. Sheiky Baby, I'm not taking nothing away from Sheiky Baby. He was, hell, when he came down the hills, I mean, for the WWF, him, Volkov, they were right up there as far as the people that you didn't like. But Piper was the one that would take it however many steps further that he had to.
Yep.
For example, he was the one that kicked the field goal with Cyndi Lauper, as he put it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He was the baddest of the bad. All the rest of them were bad guys, but he was the baddest of the bad. Legitimately.
And you got to think too, there was earlier on in the documentary, he went out in front of Mexico, in front of the Guerreros, and he was going to play their national anthem, and it was La Cucaracha that he started playing. I mean,
that's what I was getting ready to touch on. What kind of balls do you have to have? Because he said,
"Sure,
I'm going to die." What did he say? They're going to kill me, or I'm going to die.
Yeah,
he knew he was dead. He knew he was dead after that. I mean, because, come on, man. And that was the old bait and switch that he used. He actually had you thinking, okay, this man might be trying to, turn over a new leaf or what have you. And next thing you know, boom.
And how many times down the road did you see a wrestler pull a similar move where he went into a city and you thought he was going to give him a big pop and he just turned on him? It's like, you know what I'm saying?
One other guy, and I'm only going to throw this out there just because I know the type of reaction I'm about to get. One other guy, and I was actually present. I was actually there in the crowd when this happened. And I've always kept this in the back of my mind. So if it ever comes a time where heel Big Stan emerges, you know what I'm saying? But Ric Flair, the Nature Boy Ric Flair of all people. And I knew this was going to get you. Just think about it, how this goes together. Ric Flair came into my town one night. It was WWE Raw on a Saturday night. Ric Flair got on the mic and he had us, man. He was like, the more things change, the more they stay the same. He said, I came to this town 20 years ago. And now that I come back to this town, this is still the same rundown town that it was 20 years ago. You know what I'm saying?
And you love the book. Yeah. Hey,
right.
I'm going to tell you what. I'm going to tell you what. At that time, man, I might have just been like, it's good. I mean, I know he just dissed me, but what year was that?
This was like 2002, I believe. 2002, 2003.
Yeah, I'm saying did he win the heavyweight title 16 times? I'm almost positive.
No.
How many was it?
So there's a miscount. WWE will tell you 16, but it's more like 21, 22 in that range.
Okay. So we can say this guy has fucking owned the world championship heavyweight belt. 2002, he comes into my town and he rips my town. I'm like, you can do whatever the fuck you want, dude.
Yeah,
you're good, bro. You're good, bro.
Definitely. All right.
You earn that. You want me next? Me next. Hit me.
Right. Right.
Man, one of these times we're gonna have some stories about going to wrestling events because I got some. I got some SmackDown stories.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I got Raw.
I can't wait. I can't wait.
I got him too, man.
Yeah, and in true Pack fashion, I didn't fucking let up off the gas. I put my foot down, boy. I went in and I was a fucking rowdy. Went with two other friends of mine and we fucked shit up.
That's the way to be, man.
Yeah, that's what you do.
Yeah. That's the only way to be.
I toned down a little bit just because, tonight I felt like, I felt like when I watched it, their family deserved good stuff. We brought a little bit rowdy, but I definitely wouldn't want to put anything out there that would put a black on anything he did or what his family was about. So, so right there,
Yeah, I think that at the end of the day, it was well documented and reiterated how when it came down to it, Roddy, he always tried to do the right thing when it came down to it. I mean, again, when he was out on the streets, the things that, the choices that he made and some of the things that he did, he held himself accountable for. I mean, I don't consider myself just being, somebody that haven't had their hardships in life. You know what I'm saying? You haven't had your twists and turns. We all have, for the most part. There's been some challenges for everybody. For the most part, some might not be as intense or as drastic, but for him, I could understand. Me personally, I could understand when he had to go, on the low road, to just to survive.
The soul, the human instinct, it will survive. You know what I'm saying? It may be shameful at times, but you will do what you have to survive. And, if does anybody else have anything they want to touch on before we put some final remarks on the show and the legacy of one Roddy Piper?
I'm just gonna go ahead. This is the one figure that I have on me right now that I could get to the quickest. So in classic 3 live stream fashion, you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna incorporate a little bit of action figure sauce. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's right. Because when you come to 3 live stream, it's always main eventers.
Oh yeah, for sure. So
damn sure. So, with that being said, you got anything you want to hit with wild card?
Just gonna put it to you fellas out there like this. Next week, watch along with us. So it's real simple. Go to your tablet, go to your phone, download the A&E app, and watch it for free. That's simple. Go to the Play Store and download it and then watch it. And if you haven't watched the 2 episodes that we've talked about this week and last, go ahead after you download that app, baby, and watch those 2 episodes and get caught up on all the content. And then after that, come back and watch these 2 episodes of 3 live stream.
Right here, baby. Right here.
Right here. That's right.
Yeah.
I love it.
All right, Big Stan, is that what you got? Because I'm about ready to send us out of here.
Oh no, man! Everybody knows what to do. Check out IG for the latest updates. Everybody's got their individual Instagram accounts. Hopefully, everybody's linked up and connected so you can stay caught up on all the latest happenings involving us individually and collectively. I'm really enjoying these series of shows that we're doing here on the 3 live stream YouTube channel, and I just want to say I am very thankful and grateful to have the opportunity to be able to present you guys with something in this magnitude, and I'm just hoping that we're doing a good enough job of bringing it to you.
Yes. I'm glad to be doing. I'd be glad to do this collaboration. I'm gonna learn to talk next week, maybe.
Me too.
Yeah. Fuck, man, I have fucked so much shit up. I need a blooper reel, bitch. Damn. Fuck. But I want to say I am so grateful to do this collaboration with the wild card, the champ, right here, big homie, Double G, Big Stan Harris. And like I said, you ain't gonna find chumps on 3 Live Stream. All fucking cash, baby. With that being said, I do want to say thank you to the family of Roddy Piper. We love and miss him, just like you do. I'm sure you guys will miss him a lot more than us, but we appreciate everything that he brought to us. Everything that was made possible by his family. And I appreciate the WWE for doing these shows, because this is what Heart Defined is. This is what the nature of soul is. You may think it's just going out there and wrestling, but when you watch and you know anything about wrestling, there's some soul being laid out there on the canvas.
Oh, yeah.
Every day, every night. You know what? And what other live stream are you going to fucking find where we don't have an actual fucking champ right here? So with that being said, fellas, we'll catch everybody next week. Peace.
Yeah.